Housing is crazy right now. So let's talk about the Biden administration's new Bill of Rights for renters and some exciting changes to low-income housing in America. There's some really interesting stuff in here, and I can't wait to tell you about how it's going to help you. Now let's start with that Bill of Rights, which states that all renters in America deserve 5 key protections. First, the right to safe, quality, accessible, and affordable housing. Every renter should have access to housing that is safe, decent, and affordable. Second, the right to clear and fair leases. Renters should have a clear and fair lease that is easy to understand with clearly defined terms, rights, and responsibilities for both the landlord and the renter. I wish somebody had told that to my previous landlord, because I once had a lease that was 24 pages long and it was anything but clear and fair. Third, the right to education, enforcement, and enhancement of renter rights. According to the White House, this means that federal, state, and local governments should do all they can to ensure that renters know their rights. It also means that those governments should protect renters from illegal discrimination or exclusion. Fourth, renters should have the right to organize. That means you should be able to put together a tenants union without obstruction or harassment from your housing provider or property manager or whoever it is. Fifth, renters should have the right to eviction prevention, diversion, and relief. That means that you should be able to get help with your rent payments and access other eviction prevention services when you need them. Renters have the right to fair legal process during the eviction proceeding and should not be subject to future housing instability. I like that one. Unfortunately, most renters in America obviously don't have these rights right now. However, it's nice to see that the federal government is acknowledging that this is how it should be, and they're putting together a coalition to make it so. They've partnered with all sorts of different organizations and groups to make progress on low-income housing, and I'm really encouraged by some of what I saw in the reporting of these new initiatives. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, has been instructed to require public housing authorities and owners of project-based rental assistance properties to provide 30 days notice before ending a lease due to non-payment of rent. That means instead of 3-day pay or vacate notices, we might start seeing 30-day pay or vacate notices instead, which would be a huge change that could really help a lot of low-income families who are going through temporary hardships. The FTC and the CFPB, both of which are tasked with protecting consumers, are both working together to investigate a variety of things that affect renters, including the use of tenant background checks, the use of algorithms and rental screenings, the provision of adverse action notices by landlords, and more. This is the first time in history that the FTC has ever made an inquiry into the rental housing market. The federal government has also launched something called the Challenge. The Resident-Centered Housing Challenge is intended to push local governments to strengthen renter protections. It's supposed to start in spring of this year, but some local organizations and governments have already jumped on board and made commitments to help. Some examples of this include Realtor.com Rentals will pilot a new home listing tool that will highlight landlords and rental units that accept housing choice vouchers. If you have Section 8 already, then you know how hard it is to find units and landlords that will accept those benefits. So this tool should make it a lot easier. If you use their Avail tool, you will also be able to apply for multiple properties without any additional cost. Now, the public housing authorities in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania have both agreed to cap their annual rental increases at 5% per year for their subsidized housing, which is a great relief to the people who live there. Stewards of Affordable Housing for the Future, or SAHF, is an organization that oversees 145,000 housing units across the United States. The members of their organization have agreed to offer flexible payment plans for renters who have unpaid rent but are working with their property management. They've also committed to giving 30 days notice prior to eviction for unpaid rent, and at least 5 days to fix a missed rent payment, and 60 days notice to any tenants who may be affected by the sale or closure of a property. These policies will definitely help their low-income renters stay in their home, which is great. And finally, the White House has announced that they are looking for more partners to join this challenge to pivot toward a more renter-centered model of housing. The goal is to create new benefits for renters, help them build credit, prepare for homeownership, protect their housing safety, remove junk fees from leases, and help prevent evictions. These are all great goals, so I will continue to report on these changes as they go throughout the year as more and more groups join the challenge. Now, although I'm excited to see how these changes will improve housing in America in the future, I'm also cautiously optimistic. The number one challenge we're facing right now is actually low inventory. We need more homes. A recent study found that America is actually 5.5 million homes short of what we need. To solve the inventory crisis, the University of Maine is actually building 3D printed homes that are made entirely out of recyclable bio-based materials made from wood flour or the material left over at a sawmill. The homes are small, about 600 square feet, but have 3D printed floors, walls, and roofing. The prototype house was printed in 4 modules and then assembled in half a day. They had electricity running in just 2 hours with only 1 electrician on site. And according to a local news source, the goal is to print 1 home in 2 days. That is way faster than a traditional home can be built. So the hope is that these homes could be mass produced and create a lot of affordable housing very quickly. After all, the university's executive director, Habib Dagger, said, quote, "There's 1.2 million tons of wood residuals in our sawmills right now in the region that could go to print housing," end quote. Now, before they can mass produce them, though, they need to make sure that it's going to be stable. So right now, they're leaving that prototype out in the weather for a few months to collect data about how it's affected by the snow and the cold and the heat and the humidity, so they know if this is a good long-term solution. But I am hoping that these 3D printed homes turn out to be a great solution to our housing crisis. Now, of course, all of these things aren't going to be able to help you if you need low-income housing right now today. So be sure to check out our video on how to find low-income housing in your area if you need help right away, and I will see you there.